6 minutes past 5. With me now, Sir Michael Fabricant, former Conservative MP and now brilliant political commentator. Hello, Sir Michael.
Hello there, Mark.
Michael,
can I just say on the Henry
yes,
Novak thing,
go
yeah, I just want to say I agree totally with what you said just now. And I also believe, that you had Keir Starmer taking the knee for George Floyd.
Yeah.
Let's be clear about George Floyd. He had previously shot a pregnant woman's stomach. He had just been burgling a corner shop when the police were called, and he was high on drugs. And yet he had a funeral as if he were a saint.
Correct.
And, Henry Novak, we've had no comment at all from the Prime Minister, let alone taking the knee for this poor white boy. Talk about two-tier Keir. I mean, it really is quite disgusting.
It really is shocking, and I completely agree with you on that, Sir Michael. What are you taking away from this latest drop of Mandelson files, Michael?
Well, it's absolutely extraordinary. It's an indictment, is it not, of the government? This is not embarrassing. This is incriminating. And when you hear that people who come out time and time again in order to defend the Starmer government, they come on your programme, Mark, they go on the BBC, they go on ITV, and for all I know, they might even go on another television station, which I won't name, but you know well.
Can't imagine what you're talking about.
Well, exactly. But, you've got Pat McFadden, who is always there defending the government, saying that the Prime Minister lacks verve, and so does the rest of the cabinet. And you've got Darren Jones, who is the right-hand man of the Prime Minister, private secretary to the Prime Minister, which is a new position now being rumoured to actually challenge the Prime Minister for the leadership and to fight, no doubt, Andy Burnham as well.
Most definitely. And what you have is a picture of a number 10 operation in disarray with government ministers at odds with the leadership and with the policies. That's
right. You had Pat McFadden saying all that people want, all the cabinet wants is to raise taxes, not to control benefits. That was when he was Work and Pensions Minister. You have other people saying that the government is incompetent and lack ability. Goodness knows. And of course, the other thing, which is not really coming out yet, is the number of papers that have been redacted. Why have they been redacted? This is beginning to look like Watergate. And surprise, surprise, in those 1,300 pages so far, nobody has spotted any correspondence between Mandelson and Keir Starmer. What was going on there?
Riddle me that.
Why exactly are other documents not only being redacted, they're being held back? I was watching a little bit of what was going on in the House of Commons earlier, and you had the Conservative shadow minister saying these papers should be released, if nothing else, to privy councillors who are sworn to secrecy. But no, they're being held back. And the problem with Watergate was when you try and hide the big lie. And that is clearly what is beginning to happen here. These documents must be unredacted and they must be released, particularly the correspondence between Mandelson and the Prime Minister, and also what went on when it came to the vetting of Mandelson.
Yes, well, that's the key thing. And it appears that Mandelson's role went beyond his diplomatic one. He was advising the government on communication strategy, potentially policy too.
Yeah, he was contacting individual ministers, individual cabinet ministers and lower ranks as well, advising them what to do and how to run their departments. It's absolutely extraordinary how he has been brought back in. And of course, at the end of the day, the real thing is it just demonstrates the incredible lack of judgment by Keir Starmer for bringing him back in the first place. He was hoping third time lucky, maybe. Well, it didn't happen that way. And of course, you got this begging note from Starmer to that great intellect, David Lammy, who at the time was Prime Minister, you know, the one who thought that the son of Henry VIII was Henry VII.
Mastermind himself.
And mastermind himself. I mean, if it weren't a joke, you would actually think he's the greatest humorist on earth, but it wasn't a joke. Those were genuine answers. Anyway, mind you, having said that, I was asked to go on to Mastermind once, and I thought, no way, no way. But he wrote to David Lammy, and he said to David Lammy, trust me, appointing me will mean that you'll be happy with your decision. You won't regret it. Well, frankly, if Mandelson said anything like that to me, I would know that he meant completely the opposite, as in fact it's now turned out.
Well, most definitely. What do you think this latest file drop means for Sir Keir Starmer? He was already in deep trouble, Sir Michael. Is it priced in that Starmer is a dead duck already, or does this make things worse?
I think dead duck is a euphemism. I think he's toast. I mean, absolutely he's toast. I think he was toast anyway.
Yeah.
When all this came out about Mandelson, and then when the election results were so bad for him in the local elections, and I dare say it's going to go pretty badly as well in fact, if it weren't for Reform, I would say, Restore, I would have said that Reform would win absolutely in the by-election coming up. But that isn't to be, as Restore are fighting. And once again, we see they're splitting the right-wing vote, which I think is very, very unfortunate. What does it mean? It means Starmer is a goner. I said, gosh, I think I said to you, Mark, on this very programme, maybe a year ago, that I thought that Keir Starmer was a dud. It's quite clear from all this material that's coming out, and don't forget, it's not all been analysed yet, there's so much of it, that the cabinet, and Starmer in particular, were directionless. They got elected. All Starmer wanted to be was Prime Minister, but he didn't know why. He wanted the status, but he had no idea about what his policies were, whether he was left, whether he was right. And the comments made by Tony Blair, frankly, are spot on. You know, you've got to come in with a reason to come in. It's no good just wanting to be Prime Minister.
Most definitely. What about the future? If Starmer goes, and let's imagine in a hypothetical scenario that Andy Burnham becomes Prime Minister, does he go to the country straight away for his own mandate, Sir Michael?
I don't think he will, because I think it will still look awful in the polls. Maybe he'll get a slight initial bounce, but I don't think that bounce will mean that Labour will win in any way. And so unless he's a turkey who is voting for Christmas, I don't think there will be. But of course, the irony is that when Boris Johnson took over from Theresa May, you had the Labour Party shouting, oh, we must have a general election. But no, I don't think there will be a general election until Labour think they could win at the polls. And as I say, if Andy Burnham comes in, they will get a slight bounce. But in my judgment, and heaven knows my judgment is often wrong, but I don't think that the bounce will be big enough to actually win at a general election.
Do you think, though, that Andy Burnham might calculate that Labour would perform slightly better this year than in 3 years' time, given the economic outlook? Is it possible that Prime Minister Burnham could make the judgment that actually I'll take a hung parliament and I'll do a deal with the Greens, the Lib Dems and the SNP?
Yeah, that's not impossible. If he gets advice from whoever his new Chancellor of the Exchequer is, that things can only get worse, as opposed to Tony Blair's things can only get better, he might decide to cut and run. But you know what? The British public are not fools, and they shouldn't be taken for fools. And I think if he does cut and run, it'll be obvious the reason why. And, you know, you've got so many external bodies out there who analyse the economy just as well as the Treasury, and some would argue a lot better than the Treasury. It would be made very plain indeed that the only reason why he's gone for an early election is in order to not risk having, of course, that would, and by the way, this would raise an interesting constitutional matter going early, because in theory, you go to the king and you say, King, Your Majesty, we wish to call a general election because the government can't run as it presently is. But the king would say, but hang on for a moment, you have got a massive majority. Why are you going for an election now? And constitutionally, you don't go for a very early election simply because you think things could get much worse.
Well, of course, that is the issue, isn't it? And the problem you have, Sir Michael, is we've got this political psychodrama happening in Westminster, a beauty contest that's turning ugly for the leadership, the Mandelson files. Meanwhile, we've got the highest energy prices in the developed world, the highest youth unemployment in Europe. We've got non-existent growth, the return of inflation. So they're having this debate whilst Rome burns.
Much of that burning was ignited by themselves. We used to have the lowest youth unemployment in Europe.
Yeah.
But it was made much higher because of the national insurance on costs, and also saying that the minimum wage should apply to youngsters. Now, I used to be an employer. I used to run a radio business long before I became an MP, and I would go for mature people if I thought they were for the same cost as a young person who I'd really have to train up. And, you know, some young people are not as reliable as older people who know to turn up on time. So it's no surprise to me that there is such high youth unemployment, but it's nothing to do with what's going on in the rest of the world. It's all to do with Labour Party policy. And virtually every businessman will tell you that.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, these policies are just backfiring horribly, aren't they? Sir Michael, wonderful to see you again. We look forward to catching up soon. Former Conservative MP Sir Michael Fabricant.